Good morning, everyone, and welcome to a special edition of the MMA OB Daily Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Adam Martin, and I'm joined by my buddy here, Cole Shelton, to break down UFC Washington DC, and also we'll take any questions you guys have. So feel free to throw some questions in the chat. We'll definitely answer them before the end of the show. We're here for at least the next 45 minutes or so, if not longer. So feel free to send in any questions you guys may have. Cole, how's it going, man? I know it's kind of been a tough week for you. If you want to talk about any of that stuff, feel free to. If you don't, no worries. But the floor is yours, buddy.
Yeah, it's been like a bunch of us got let go for Sure Dog. There's like probably 10 of us. It's all like budget, and there's a new California law that's coming in, so they're all trying to work around it. But it is what it is. Just keep grinding at BJ Penn, MA News, and everywhere else.
Yeah, for sure, man. And like I said, I'll try to see what I can do for you myself, man. It's a tough business. Our friend James did a pretty good podcast this week just talking about the business itself, and it's definitely a tough business. Personally, I've been doing this since 2011, so it's been almost 10 years. I mean, it's crazy, right? Like, the years go by really fast. I love what I do, but I'm very fortunate because it's very, very difficult to get a job. I think, especially now, there's so many free agents now. And there's only so many spots, Cole. So it's a really tough business. I think both of us are just thankful we do have work right now. It's, like I said, it's a very, very tough industry. For anyone starting out, I mean, I couldn't even imagine how difficult it would be to get a paying gig at this point. I think I was lucky because I got into it at a really early stage in the sports life, but people getting into it now, it must be tough. So just wanted to mention off the bat, I feel bad for all those guys that, obviously lost their job, but it is part of the business. Unfortunately, it's the sad part of the business. It happened to me. I remember getting the phone call from the Score back in 2012. I woke up one morning and I got let go, and I was like crushed because it honestly was my dream job at the time. So I was just absolutely crushed, but it worked out okay over the years. So Cole, you'll be all right, buddy. Everything's going to work out fine for you and to the other guys too as well. But definitely a tough time. But I want to mention off the bat. All right, so let's get into UFC Washington DC. Pretty good card, Cole. I think there's 12 fights in the card. Just overall thoughts on it while I set up the card.
Yeah, it's an okay card. I thought it would be a bit better for the final ESPN one of the year. I've bit disappointed in these big ESPN cards. I thought they'd be a lot better than what they have been. I thought just on ESPN you're going to get a lot of viewers. Obviously, Overeem Harris would have been a great main event until obviously the tragic news of Anaya Blanchard and Walt Harris's stepdaughter. Rozenstruik stepping in, that's good. I don't really get why Khalil Rodriguez is the co-main event. I think there's a lot better fights in that one, but still a good fight. But there is some good names. Prelims have some good names, good up-and-coming prospects, so it should be a good card all around.
Yeah, it looks okay to me. Definitely, I think lacking in the big names. Main event, I guess, has some big names, but overall, I think it probably could use some more star power, Cole. But there were so many cards, I think, and the UFC just had a hard time kind of filling it with bigger names. So it is what it is. But we're looking ahead to 2020 schedule. We'll talk about it throughout the show. We'll actually later on in the show after we break down the card. There's some really big fights coming up next year, so we'll get to those later. But I want to get to UFC Washington DC first. All right, first up, first fight of the night, middleweight bout. Trevor Smith against Makhmed Muradov. The opening odds had Muradov minus 260, Smith plus 200. Right now we have Muradov minus 420, Smith plus 335. Who's your pick?
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting because Trevor Smith was moving up in weight. He's going to go to light heavyweight. He was supposed to fight Nogueira. Nogueira got hurt. Then he's supposed to fight Menefield. Then Menefield got hurt, so he's jumping back down to middleweight. I just haven't been too impressed with Smith the last two performances. Lost to Zach Cummins and Elias Theodoro. Muradov obviously had that debut win over Alessio DeCirco. I like Muradov here. I think he's just going to grind out a decision win. I think this is going to be the final fight of Trevor Smith in the UFC.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. It's weird seeing that Smith kind of isn't bouncing back. I'm just going to double check to make sure that we're sure it's a middleweight, right? Like, I'm just going to check.
That's what UFC has.
Yeah, okay. I was just actually on their website right now. I can't find it, but I don't like their website very much. They have it at 185, huh? So, all right, there we go. That's what it is. I mean, that's kind of strange. Actually, Cole, it says light heavyweight on the UFC's website, so I'm not 100% sure. Yeah.
It does say light heavyweight.
Yeah, so it actually might be a light heavyweight fight, guys. Tapology says 185. I think no one's really sure, but Trevor Smith was supposed to fight Little Noggin Menefield at light heavyweight, and Muradov's taking a short notice. So actually, Cole, it might be a light heavyweight. But to me, that we have to mention that, but I don't think it changes the way the fight goes. Trevor Smith is a guy that I'm shocked has hung on the roster this long, to be completely honest. This is a guy that came over from Strikeforce. He was not impressive with Strikeforce. He has not been impressive in the UFC. The only fight he had that I even remember was the Ed Herman fight. That was a great fight back in 2013. He actually lost that fight. And since then, he's been just in a bunch of fights where they're just not memorable. Like, they all go to decision. He usually loses the decisions. He's a guy with very little finishing ability. He has some submissions, but that's it. No striking whatsoever. And his chin's not very good either. So this guy is a lot older for this division. How old is he? 38. So he's getting up there in age. And then he takes on Meredov here. Again, short notice for Meredov, but this guy's an absolute monster. 23-6, only 29. He's part of Floyd Mayweather's stable, Cole. So I think he's the only MMA fighter under Floyd Mayweather's money team. And this kid is good, man. Look at his record. He's on, a 10-fight win streak? Something like that, 13 fights. It's crazy. Like, he's on an incredible win streak. It's actually 11 fights. So he's been on a tear. He picked up a nice win over Chirico in his debut. He also has a couple other UFC veterans on his resume, including Alberto Uda, Wendell Oliveira, a couple other guys. So this kid is incredible. He wins for sure. The question is, Cole, does he win by stoppage or by decision? I know that Smith's been going to decision, but I actually think Meredov is going to knock him out. So my pick would be Meredov by knockout. The prop on him winning inside distance is plus 140. I think there is value there because I do think he finishes this fight. That's my pick here, Cole. I'm pretty confident in Meredov winning this fight. I just don't have much faith in Trevor Smith. Next up, we have a women's strawweight bout between Verna Jandiroba and Mallory Martin. The opening odds had Jandiroba minus 155, Martin plus 115. Jandiroba minus 265. My long-lost cousin, Mallory Martin, plus 225 are the current odds. Who's your pick?
Yes, obviously, Martin's taking this fight on short notice. Jandiroba was supposed to face Souza, and then it was going to be Courtney Casey. So Martin had a good performance in the Contender Series. I thought you could have signed her. They decided to pass on her. She went back to Invicta, picked up a win, and they signed her here short notice. I'm picking Jandiroba here. I just like her experience. I know she lost to Esparza, but Esparza just basically out-wrestled her. I don't think Martin's going to be able to do that to her. She has good wins over in Invicta. She was the former strawweight champ. I think it's good Martin's in the UFC now. I think she probably belonged. I would have liked to see her probably get one more fight in Invicta before she came, but I think Jandiroba's going to edge out a decision win here.
Yeah, this is definitely a close fight. I think it's a bit closer than the current odds indicate. I think Martin is decent. She looked okay in the Contender Series for sure, but looking at it, Cole, I was thinking about taking Martin as a dog here, going for the upset, but honestly, the level of competition is so far skewed in Jandiroba's favor. Even the fight with Esparza, I know she lost that fight, but the fact she fought a former champion in her debut, was able to go the distance, that's good experience. She has some good wins, like Morandin, that's a solid win in Invicta. Mizuki Inoue is a really good fighter, so she's also fought some other fighters as well earlier in her career that are decent. So to me, just the level of competition is the difference here. I know Martin's on a nice win streak right now. She's a bit younger, and her losses are to solid fighters too. But to me, the level of experience is going to play a factor here, Cole. My pick is going to be Jandiroba to win the decision. I don't like the odds, though. I think it's a little too high, personally, at minus 265, but I do think she wins this fight. Next up, we have Matt Wyman take on Joe Selecki in a lightweight bout. Matt Wyman, another fight for him. He took 5 years off, and now he's back, and this is his second fight this year, so kind of crazy for him. But Joe Selecki minus 180, Wyman plus 150. Those are the opening odds. And currently we have Joe Selecki is a minus 320 favorite, Matt Wyman plus 260. Who's your pick?
I like Joe Selecki here. Matt Wyman showed nothing against Louis Pena. I'm surprised he's back. And this soon, only 6 months, and he was beat down that fight. It was not and Joe Selecki, obviously, coming off a good submission over James Wallace, who's a tough guy in the Contender Series. I think Selecki's just going to get this fight down to the ground and probably submit Matt Wyman, if not ground and pound him out. I don't really give Matt Wyman a chance here. Just from what I've seen, I just have to fade him a lot. And I think Selecki's one of the better guys they did sign off the Contender Series, so I'll take Selecki by stoppage here.
Yeah, well, I don't want to be a hypocrite, because if you look, the last fight I was saying that Jandiroba, the experience is her advantage, and that's why I'm picking her. But in this case, obviously, Wyman's experience in the UFC is far, far above what Selecki has. He doesn't have any fights in the UFC. The difference is Jandiroba is still in her far out of his prime now, 36 years old, but he's an older 36. The amount of damage he took in that Pena fight was honestly frightening. That was after a 5-year layoff. This guy, at one point in time, Cole, and this was maybe a little bit before your time, buddy, because I know you were a bit younger back then, but this guy in the late 2000s was on an absolute tear. He's one of my favorite fighters to watch. He's been in so many good fights, really underrated fighter throughout his career, been in so many Fight of the Nights. Great fighter at one point, but at this point in time, 2019, I don't know why he came back. I didn't like how he looked against Pena. Getting finished in the third round like that was frightening because he took a ton of damage. That referee should have stopped that fight way sooner. So this guy's an automatic fade. I don't even I'm not even that high in Joe Selecki, to be honest with you. I know he did look pretty good in the fight with James Wallace. He's on a 3-fight win streak. I'm not super high in this guy, though. Like, I don't think he's some crazy good prospect or anything. Maybe he'll prove me wrong, but I think he wins. Like, I just can't see Matt Wyman winning. The odds are a little high. Would have obviously loved to have him at minus 180. The opener was way too low. But minus 320, it's a little high. I still think he wins, though, Cole. So my pick is Joe Selecki. The question is, does he win by stoppage or decision? Tough to say. Matt Wyman's obviously very, very durable, but the last fight showed that I think he can be finished, especially with a guy with a good gas tank. So it's possible to get stopped later in the fight, but either way, I think Joe Selecki wins this fight in pretty dominant fashion. And honestly, this will probably be the last fight of Matt Wyman's career. I could not see him getting another fight. The UFC gets finished again. Next up, we have a really good featherweight bout here, Cole, between Bryce Mitchell and Matt Sales. I like this fight. The opening odds have Bryce Mitchell minus 185, Sales plus 160. Right now we have Sales minus 115, Bryce Mitchell minus 105, so slight lean towards Sales and the odds. Who's your pick?
Yeah, this is a really good fight. I think this is kind of the UFC seeing which featherweight prospect is going to get that next push and maybe a ranked opponent next. Bryce Mitchell's looked very impressive, coming off that win over Bobby Moffitt. Matt Sales coming off the win over Kyle Nelson. I like Bryce Mitchell, though, here. I think he's just shown more in his career. I think his cardio's impressive. He has a good ground game, a lot of submission wins. Matt Sales is a good ground and pound, so it's going to be interesting to see if Mitchell wants to take it down to the ground because he could get ground pound here by Sales, but I think Mitchell's the better fighter all around. I think he might be able to pull off a submission win, but I'll think it's going to go the distance. I think Mitchell's going to edge out a decision win.
I like Mitchell too. To be honest with you, I'm a little surprised that the odds have kind of went towards Sales. People obviously have more faith in him, but I do think Mitchell is going to win this fight. I've been a little bit more impressed with him than Matt Sales. He's been a little more consistent in the UFC. Obviously, he's unbeaten. He did lose on the Ultimate Fighter, but as a pro, he's undefeated in 3-round fights. So he had that nice win over Bobby Moffitt. His last fight also beat Tyler Diamond. I've been impressed, Cole. Like, he's a fun guy. He's got good interviews too. He's got a good personality. 25 years old. So I think Thug Nasty's got a pretty good bright future in the sport. Matt Sales is solid too. 25, 8-2 record. He's solid for sure. But the fight with Shane Moraes, he obviously lost that fight. Didn't look good in that fight. In the Kyle Nelson fight, he did win that fight, but it wasn't the greatest performance I think he's had. So I like Bryce Mitchell, Cole. I think as a dog, there is value on Bryce Mitchell. So that'd be my pick here. Obviously, we both like Bryce Mitchell as an underdog, so definitely keep an eye on this guy because I think at underdog odds, there is some value there. Next up, another featherweight bout here between Billy Quarantillo and Jacob Kilburn. The opening odds have Quarantillo minus 230, Kilburn plus 170. Right now, we have Quarantillo minus 300, Kilburn plus 250. And Kilburn is filling in on short notice for the injured Chris Fishgold. He's making his UFC debut. Who's your pick here? Actually, both guys are making their debuts, but Quarantillo was on Contender Series. Go ahead, Cole.
Yeah, Kilburn was on the Contender Series in 2018 too, lost to Bobby Moffitt. And he picked up 2 wins, 2 knockouts in island fights, 2 quick knockouts. And obviously, I favor Quarantillo just because he had the full camp. He was preparing for Chris Fishgold, which is kind of a different style because Fishgold would want to take it down to the ground. Kilburn's guy is going to keep it standing, so I wonder how much that's going to impact it. I like Quarantillo here, but I don't like him at that odds. I don't think this is a fight you bet on, but I'll pick Quarantillo by decision.
Yeah, I lean towards Quarantillo too. Like you said, the full camp. Kilburn taking the fight in very short notice, like a week's notice, 2 weeks notice, something like that. Very short notice. Quarantillo looked really good against Kirk on the Contender Series. I know that Kilburn's looked pretty good in his last few fights. Island Fights is a decent promotion as well, so not a bad promotion. Get some wins in, but Quarantillo more experience. He was on the Ultimate Fighter a few years ago as well. Didn't work out for him, but the guy is, I think, a pretty solid fighter. And Coley does have a really notable win here over Common Worthy, who just picked up that nasty knockout win over Devontae Smith. So that's a nice win looking back on it. Worthy looked really good in his debut. So I think that Quarantillo wins this fight probably. The odds are a little bit too high, in my opinion, right now, but he should win this fight. I think the odds would have been better at the opener, but minus 300 is a little high. I still think he wins. Next up, I like this fight a lot. One of my favorites of all time, Tim Means taking on Thiago Alves. Welterweight bout, great matchup here, Cole. Tim Means open minus 160, Alves open plus 130. Right now we have Tim, their Dirty Bird Means, minus 265. Thiago Pitbull Alves plus 225. Who's your pick?
Yeah, I like Tim Means in here. I just haven't been impressed with Thiago Alves. To me, Thiago Alves is on a 4-fight losing streak. I don't think he won that Max Griffin fight at all. Lawrence Staropoli didn't look good against Kuchenko. He got dominated. Millender, he got knocked out. Tim Means obviously is coming off that brutal knockout loss to Nico Price, where that was the one where he broke his leg, right? Yeah.
It was bad.
And then before that, beat Ricky Rainey. Split decision losses to Sergio Moraes and Bilal Muhammad. Those aren't bad losses, especially Bilal Muhammad losing by split. This is going to be a striking contest, I think, and I think Tim Means is the better striker here. I think he might be able to knock out Alves, but Alves has shown he has a good chin as of late, so I'll have to take Means by decision.
Yeah, I think this could be fight at night. Two guys, they're going to stand and bang. I don't see this fight going to the ground. I think someone's going to probably get knocked down. I think it could be Alves. I know he's been pretty durable throughout his career, Cole, but I just feel like with Tim Means' precision and his power, he could touch Thiago Alves in the chin and put him out cold. And also, like, the length and reach really are in Tim Means' favor here. You know, he hasn't had exactly the career I've kind of hoped out Tim Means. Like, I really thought he could be a title contender at one point because of that striking ability, but obviously too many holes in this game. Having said that, though, Cole, he's still extremely dangerous. I know he's coming off the nasty locker loss to Price. I don't think that's that bad of a loss, like to a great fighter Price, though. And Alves, you know, he's been losing to guys. Like, his losses aren't that bad either. Millinger's a good fighter. Pachenko's good. But the Storopoli fight, Cole, he to me, he finally showed his age in that fight, and I wasn't impressed. So this guy's 36 now. I think he is getting up there in age, and I think he's kind of nearing the end of his career. He's had a great career, possible Hall of Famer when it's all said and done. Like, he really was one of the best welterweights in the world for like 10 years. But I think at this point in time, this is a bad matchup for him. So my pick is Tim Means. I do think he knocks out Thiago Alves, and I'm looking forward to this fight because I think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. Next up, this is another good fight here, Cole. A bantamweight bout between prospects, or I wouldn't say prospects, they're contenders at this point. Rob Font, Ricky Simone, opening odds. Rob Font minus 160, Ricky Simone plus 130. Right now we have Rob Font minus 135, Ricky Simone plus 115. Who's your pick?
Yeah, this is a really good way to open the main card. What a good fight this is. It's interesting because Font obviously looked so good in his last fight, but he dominates Sergio Pettis. But Pettis was way too small on that. So I don't think he'll be able to use that wrestling and dominate Simone like that. Simone, obviously, he's known for his pressure and cardio and always in your face. I think that's going to be the key for him in this fight. But I like Rob Font striking. I think he's the more technical striker. I think he's going to pick apart Simone. I don't think he's going to finish Simone. I know Simone got finished by favor his last fight. I just think he just kind of got caught there. I like Rob Font in this fight. I think he's going to win by decision.
Yeah, this is an interesting fight. I think people maybe are going to write off Simone after the loss to Faber. I think he got caught. He obviously got caught. He got hit with a good punch, but the guy before that was extremely impressive, Cole. So I'm not ready to write him off just yet. I think he's still a good prospect. He's still young. He's only 27. So to me, he's still got a lot of potential. But I just higher on Rob Font. I know he's 32. He's a little bit older, but I've just been really high on this guy. I think he's one of the more underrated guys in this division. The problem is he obviously doesn't fight a ton. This is his first fight all year, Cole. He's had problems getting fights. I think guys don't want to fight him because he's kind of low in the rankings, but he's super dangerous. So I can see why guys are ducking him. But this guy is a really good fighter. We've seen some of the power he possesses. The Thomas Almeida fight, Cole, the George Roop fight in his debut back in 2014, and then some nice wins over guys like Andrade and Matt Chanel. Those are good wins. So this guy is dangerous. I've been more impressed with Rob Font. Again, I wouldn't completely count Ricky Simone out of this fight. I do think he has a chance to pull off the upset, but my pick would be Rob Font. I do think he wins the decision here. Should be a good fight, though. Next up, another really good bantamweight fight between Cody Stamann and Yadong Song. Love this matchup, Cole. Yadong Song open minus 145. Stamann open plus 115. Right now we have Yadong Song minus 200. Stamann plus 170. Who's your pick?
I actually like the underdog in Cody Stamann here. I think his experience, I think his cardio and his pressure is going to be a big difference in this one. Obviously, Yadong Song has that knockout power. We saw what he did against Alejandro Perez. He has a lot of knockouts on his record, but I just like Stamann's experience. I think he's going to be the more technical. I think he's the more technical striker. I think he can get in and out and pick apart Song. And I think once it gets to the later rounds, I think that's going to be telling for how good Yadong Song is. I think a lot of people are high on him because of his last performance. We haven't really seen him go against a top guy, go 3 rounds, which I think Stamann's going to do to him. So I think Stamann's going to win by decision here.
Great fight. Love this matchup. Cody Stamann's good. Don't get me wrong. He's really good. A few hiccups, one hiccup with Sterling, but otherwise he's looked really good. I think he's a really solid fighter. He is 30, so he should be in his prime. I think he's solid. Don't get me wrong. I'm just super high on Yadong Song. I agree with you that he hasn't fought like the names that Cody Stamann's fought, but Cole, he's only 22 years old and he has 20 fights already, man. He's been fighting since he was like 16 years old. And this kid is just absolutely kicking ass. He's looked incredible in the UFC. 4 straight wins. The win over Perez in his last fight is super impressive. The guy's super dangerous. Trains at Team Alpha Male. Uriah Faber says this kid's going to be the next champion. I mean, there's a lot of good fighters at 135 right now. I think this guy could potentially be a champ, though. I am not high on him. I do think he's going to win this fight. My pick's Dong Song. I think he can win either decision or maybe stop Cody Stamann, because I know Stamann hasn't been finished, but Dong Song has got that like special fight-ending knockout power that can stop pretty much anyone. So that's my pick here, man. I do think the odds are a little bit high. I would have liked to see him a little bit lower. I think there's not as much respect shown to Stamann in the odds as there should be. But I do think Yudong Song wins, so that's my pick here. Next up, we have another bantamweight bout, although this is a women's fight between Aspen Ladd and Yanin Kunitskaya. Right now, the opening odds had Ladd minus 165, Kunitskaya plus 135. Right now, we have Ladd minus 155, Kunitskaya plus 135. Who's your pick, man?
This is a fight. I think Aspen Ladd's a better fighter, but I want to see her what she looks like on the scale. If this is another where she looks like Germaine Duranami, I think there's going to be a lot of money late coming in on Kunitskaya. I think this is why the odds are close. I think if the weigh-ins weren't a thing in this one, where Ladd's last weigh-ins didn't happen, I think Ladd would be a bigger favorite. I think that's a lot of worry for a lot of people. She had an awful weigh, and then she got knocked out on the first or second punch Germaine Duranami hit her with. But I still like Ladd here. Ladd's size and strength have been huge. She's been able to out-wrestle a lot of opponents. Kunitskaya, she has good wins, Lena Landsberg and Mario Nonoa, her last two fights, but Ladd's a better fighter, so I'll pick her, but that's depending on the weigh-ins. If she has another bad cut, I think there's going to be a lot of action on Kunitskaya.
Yeah, they're both solid. Don't get me wrong. They're both really good fighters at 135. The winner of this fight could possibly jump back into title contention. We'll see. I agree with you. Ladd is probably the better fighter. She is younger, 24 years old. She's been a great prospect for a long time. She had a setback against Duranami. I didn't like that stoppage. I think the fight should have went on. I think a lot of us agree with that. But even so, she did get caught, and I think a lot of it had to do with the bad weight cut, Cole. I don't know if she really is a bantamweight. I know she's been doing the weigh-ins with California, and she's been passing those tests, but I'm not convinced she's a 135er, Cole. And she's only 24, so I think eventually, and it could be soon, she'll probably grow into a frame. She is very, very solid, though, very skilled. We've seen her in Invicta and UFC for years, and she's just a dangerous fighter. I think she's very good. Kunitskaya, I didn't think too much about her coming into UFC. She's actually looked okay. She's got some good wins in the last few fights. Landsberg, Renault, those are good wins, Cole. Two fighters that are actually a nice, they're in a nice position themselves in the division. So to me, those are some solid wins. She had the Evinger fights in Invicta, good experience, and she has that win over Cindy Dandois earlier in her career. So she's pretty good, Cole, but I guess I lean towards Ladd a little bit because I do think she's a better fighter. She is the better fighter, I should say. I just really am worried about the weight cut, and I think that would be enough for me to just kind of stay away from this one. And I'm with you. Just kind of watch the weigh-in maybe for this one. I don't even know if she'll make weight. I'm not convinced she will make the weight safely. Next up, we have a heavyweight bout between Stefan Struve and Ben Rothwell. Opening odds, Ben Rothwell minus 145, Struve plus 115. Right now, we have Ben Rothwell minus 145 for big, and the skyscraper plus 120, Stefan Struve. Who's your pick?
I don't know why this fight's happening. Stefan Struve retired literally in February, March of this year. I'm surprised Ben Rothwell's got another fight. He's on a 3-fight losing streak, and his past two have not really been entertaining fights. Struve is so inconsistent. Sometimes he looks good, sometimes he doesn't. Same with Rothwell. So personally, I wouldn't bet this fight, but it's a heavyweight fight. Anything can happen. I will pick Rothwell. I think he can grind out Struve, but that's not a confident bet, and I'd stay away from this one for sure.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think you bet on this fight. There's just too many inconsistencies between both guys in their games. Sometimes they look great, sometimes they look terrible. It's just tough to pick. I've been betting against Stefan Struve for his entire career, and it's worked out oftentimes, but sometimes he will pull off the occasional upset, like the last fight with De Lima, where he got knocked down in the first round. Call. I think we all thought he was going to get pounded out, and comes back and submits him. It was a good win. His submission game is really good for heavyweight. He's obviously blessed with a reach and height, 7 feet tall, 84.5-inch reach. I think that's tied with John Jones' longest MMA history or UFC history. But he doesn't really use his reach that well. That's his biggest problem. It's always been his problem. The only fight he ever used it well in, Cole, was the Stipe Miocic fight, where he kept at the end of his jab and knocked Stipe out. So he does have that win over Stipe. That's a fight I actually bet on him. The one time I bet on him was back in 2012 when he beat Stipe. Other than that, I've been betting against him, Cole, and it's worked out a lot of the time. Ben Rothwell is a guy that's actually at one point was a really good underdog pick, when he fought Barnett and Mitrione in a couple of those fights. The Overeem fight, I remember I had him there. I think he was plus 400 that day. But the last few years has looked just kind of terrible. He took a 3-year break. He had the USADA suspension. Since he's come back, he didn't look very good. The Arlovsky fight was very disappointing in my opinion. I think a lot of us thought he probably edged up Ivana, but the Arlovsky fight was a fight he should have won and he didn't. So he's too inconsistent. Having said that, the guy is super tough, great chin. He does have knockout power. Stefan Struve doesn't have a very good chin. I think Ben Rothwell probably knocks him out. I'm going to check the odds on that. Rothwell inside the distance, plus 145. I think if you're going to bet on this fight, that's probably the way to go because I don't think Struve's going to survive 3 rounds, but it's probably best just to pass on this one. Just these guys are really inconsistent. Next up, we have the co-main event, and this is honestly a weak co-main event, Cole. I think you're going to agree with me on that one. Marina Rodriguez against Cynthia Calvillo. Like, really, this is a co-main event? Come on. It's an okay fight, but really?
Like, put any of the 2 bantamweights, like Stamen, Young, Font, Simone. I think those are way better fights. Even Lad Kunitskaya, that's a better women's fight than this one.
And more relevant. Like, I don't – anyways, as far as this fight goes, the opening odds had Calvillo minus 140, Rodriguez plus 110. Right now we have Marina Rodriguez plus minus 125, Calvillo plus 105. The odds flipped a little bit. Rodriguez slight favorite. Who's your pick?
I like Cynthia Calvillo here. I just think she's a better fighter. It's going to be interesting with weight cut again. She's had some weight misses before. Marina Rodriguez, she's obviously coming off that good one over Ortiz Torres and Jessica Aguilar, draw to Randa Marcos. Calvillo has that win over Courtney Casey in February where she looked good in. I think she's going to use her size and her wrestling to her advantage here. She has good wins too on the regional scenes. Like she beat Jillian Robertson, beat Montana De La Rosa. She has win over Joanne Caldwell in the UFC. She's beaten a lot of good girls. I think this is a step up for. I think this is a fight that she can win if she takes out of the ground and submit her. But I think Calvillo is just going to get the win if it's going to be submission or decision here.
Yeah, this is a close fight. The odds are, I think, bang on. I don't know. I've been going back and forth on this one like all morning. Kind of just a little bit indecisive about this one. I want to lean towards Rodriguez a little bit. She's undefeated. I think there's something to be said about that. And the last fight with Torres was impressive. I mean, I don't think Torres is a great fighter. I think she's kind of really tailed off in her career, but it's still a solid win. And I thought she looked good in that fight. Calvillo is someone I've been betting on for the most part, and she's come through most of the time. Obviously, has more experience in the UFC, better experience, but I don't know. I kind of lean towards Rodriguez. It's not a safe pick though for me. It's not a fight I would recommend betting on, but and I can't blame you for taking the dog here, Cole. We'll see. The odds might flip back and Rodriguez might be the dog, but yeah, I lean towards Rodriguez slightly. I will say that I'm pretty sure this fight's going the distance. The odds on that are minus 210. Maybe that's worth a shot. Usually these fights, the women's fights going the distance are like minus 400 in this division, so possibly that could be worth a shot, minus 210 if you want to take a shot at that. I know you have to lay juice, but usually those odds are a lot higher. All right, finally, Cole, we get to the main event of the evening, 5-round heavyweight bout between Alistair, the Demolition Man Overeem, and Jairzinho, Biggie Boy, Rozenstruik. The opening odds had Overeem minus 135, Rozenstruik plus 105. Right now we have Overeem minus 120, Rozenstruik plus 100. Who's your pick, my man?
Yeah, it's an interesting fight. Obviously, Rozenstruik has shown he has a lot of knock power, just needs one to put you away. But I favor Overeem in this fight. I just think he has experience. He's shown his past couple fights that he can take a punch lately. And it's going to be interesting to see what Rozenstruik looks like in the second and third rounds if it gets there. Like, I think Overeem could wear him out and try to gas him out and see what he's like. But Rozenstruik always has that one punch knockout power through the fights. It's going to be interesting. But I just think Overeem's experience, I just think it's going to be a stand-up fight. They both come from a kickboxing background. And I just think Overeem's a more technical striker, and he'll probably get like a third or fourth round TKO.
Great fight. I can't wait for this one. I like this matchup. I got to feel bad, obviously, for Walt Harris. We'll talk about Walt Harris later on, but he was obviously supposed to get this fight against Overeem. And I think Walt Harris probably would have knocked Overeem out, Cole, and that would have been a huge win for him. So it's a opportunity. It's really sad. As this fight goes, I mean, there's no doubt Overeem has the experience advantage, and he's an incredible fighter. Like, he really is. Obviously, though, he has one big flaw, Cole, his chin. His chin is not good. He's been knocked out many times, I think 13 times. That's scary, especially going against a guy like Rozenstruik. He's a lot younger. He's only 31. He's been knocking guys out with just jabs. Like, it's crazy. He knocked out Crowder in 9 seconds or something, and then knocked out Arlovsky in less than a minute, I think, in his last fight. He's fantastic, man. I'm really high in Rozenstruik. Don't get me wrong, Overeem's dangerous. He definitely can win this fight. It's a heavyweight fight. They can all go either way. And if this fight goes to the ground, I'd give Overeem a massive advantage. But I think it stays on the feet, Cole, and I think Rozenstruik knocks him out. So my pick is going to be the underdog here, Jairzinho Rozenstruik. I do think he knocks Overeem out in the first round. And the odds are now only plus 125, so no value there. Just take them straight up, although you should definitely keep an eye out for that round 1 prop. It is a 5-round fight, Cole. I don't see this fight going past the first round, I'll be honest with you, man. Just a few comments here. Ryan Cornell, thanks for the comments, bud. Struve by sub, I mean, it's possible for sure. Struve has a really good submission game, but I don't know. Rothwell's pretty tough to submit at the same time, Cole. Like, he's very difficult to finish in general, so I'm not sure about that. We'll see, though. I know he did get submitted, I think, by Gabriel Gonzaga a few years ago. And then he says Brandon Marcos abuse. Brandon Marcos, she can be. She's really inconsistent. She's win-loss, win-loss, win-loss. So definitely overall, I think, Cole, a decent card. We'll see how it plays out. I'll get you back next week. We'll recap it a little bit next Tuesday when we talk about UFC 245, which I cannot wait for. But yeah, until then, we'll see what happens this Saturday. All right, let's talk about some fights, man. I haven't had you on in a while, so let's talk about some fights. I've talked a lot about these fights the last few podcasts, but want to get your thoughts on some of them. Conor Cowboy. Now, we've talked about this fight already, so we don't have to talk about the matchup, but 170, do you think it changes the fight at all?
I don't think it does at all. I think the fight was only like 5 weeks away. I think both of them have a tough cut 55. I think 70 is probably what they're walking around. Probably a bit more than 70. I think they probably both walk around like 180, 185. So I don't think it's going to have a huge impact. I think it's both going to be a striking fight, and I think still Conor's going to get a knockout.
Yeah, I kind of lean towards Conor too. I am looking forward to the matchup, though. I think it should be good. I don't think you can completely count out Cerrone. He's been way more active, which could come into a factor here if the fight goes, especially if it goes past the first 2 rounds. But I don't know, man. I have a feeling Conor's going to catch him early. I think the UFC likes this matchup for Conor. I mean, it's hard not to, given Cerrone's decline with his durability the last few years. Look at the Justin Gaethje fight, Cole. I think there's a good chance the same thing could happen here. Marcus asked a question. Do you think too many people are underestimating Cerrone's chances of beating Conor 170 pounds? I think there's a lot of value to Cerrone at plus 200, especially if Cerrone focuses on taking Conor down. I think Cerrone's best path to victory, I agree with you, Marcus, is the ground game. I think you'd have a massive edge in the ground. Cerrone's wrestling and his submission game are so underrated. No one ever talks about it. They just talk about his striking, but his ground game is incredible. So I think you're right, man. If he wants to go to the ground with this one, that'd be his best chance to win. That's his best path to victory. But I have a feeling they're going to stay on the feet and bang it out, Cole. I really do. I feel like Cerrone's just kind of going to be stubborn and want to stand and trade and prove that he can knock Conor out. I think he's probably going to get caught. We'll see, though. You know, we have a few months. Well, we have a month, I guess, till this fight. It's coming up really fast, but I'm excited for it for sure. I can't wait for it.
Do you think if Conor loses, do you think that's it for him?
No, I think there's other fights. I think Nate Diaz is a perfect matchup if he loses. Like, that's perfect. And by the way, there was a report this week. Ariel Helwani said that Conor's plan is to fight 3 times next year, Cole. The Cerrone fight obviously is going to happen, and then he wants to fight either Masvidal or Diaz, and then he wants to beat. So to me, he has a really good plan laid out, because if he beats Cerrone, then it sets the Masvidal fight, because Masvidal's coming off that string of wins. And as much as Masvidal deserves a title shot, Cole, it looks like he wants the money fights instead. It looks like he'd rather fight Conor than he would rather fight than Usman or Covington. I can't blame him. I think Conor's a stylistically a better fight for him. And if Conor loses, he fights Nate Diaz. And if he wins either of those fights, Habib at the end of the year is perfect. So I know there are different weight classes, obviously, but I still think the UFC, if Conor gets a win or two, they would probably give him that title shot with Habib. I don't know if he deserves it, but it is what it is. I know what you're saying, though, Cole. Here we got Marcus with another comment. Appreciate the questions and comments as always, Marcus. I disagree with Cole. I think Cerrone at 170 is a better chance against Conor's suspect cardio. If Cerrone fights smart like Habib and works the grappling, he'll win easy. Again, if the fight goes to the ground, Cole, I do agree with Marcus. You want to? Yeah, go.
Everyone says Conor's like grappling's bad. He stuffed all of Alvarez's takedowns. He stuffed a lot of Chad Mendes' takedowns. I think they're better wrestlers than Cerrone is. So I don't think Cerrone will be able to get down to the ground.
The size, though, Cole. 170 and 145.
I think at 170 they're both similar size, anyways.
Yeah. Well, isn't Cerrone a bit taller? I'm just gonna check out the physical attributes here. I think Cerrone's taller, and longer. Let me double check though. Okay, so first off, Cerrone's older, 36. He's 6'1" and has a 73-inch reach. Conor McGregor is 31. He's 5'9" and has a 74-inch reach. So actually, the reach is in Conor's favor by 1 inch, which is kind of negligible, but the height is in Cerrone's favor. I think Cerrone naturally is a bit of a bigger guy. But you know what, Cole? Conor has won and fought and won at welterweight. He beat Nate Diaz at welterweight. He did lose the first fight. We all know what happened there. But the second fight he won. So the guy has a chance to go at full 5, I think at 170 or 155 or whatever. I'm just worried with Connor about the long layoff, like a year and a half. That's kind of a long time, and just all the stuff happening outside the cage. But as far as like pure talent goes and the stylistic matchup, Cole, like the knockout power against Cerrone's fading chin and his fading age, I think it's a really good matchup for Connor. But again, we'll see what happens. I personally think that the fact it's at 170 makes it a little bit more intriguing. I think it does throw another variable into the mix that we weren't expecting. So it's an interesting fight. The other fight that was announced, the other big one. Actually, there was a couple of big ones. I don't think we talked about Jones and Reyes yet. I haven't had you on the show in like 2 weeks. So that's going to be the main event, UFC 247. Great fight. Do you think Reyes has a chance? I had Nick on the show last week. Nick thinks Reyes has a chance. I think he possibly could be one of the toughest fights John Jones had in a while, besides Thiago Santos, which was an extremely tough fight, although I didn't see that coming. I think Reyes is pretty good, man. What do you think?
I think Jones is going to go back to his roots and use his wrestling and just dominate, dictate where the fight goes. I think Reyes has to get Jones out early, and Jones is one of the hardest fighters to hit. He's so technical. He's so good. I think you're going to – I don't think Jones – that's the thing. I don't think Jones thought Smith or Santos had much of a chance. That's why he stayed standing. I think against Reyes, I think he knows he could get knocked out, so I think he's going to go to the wrestling and look to take Reyes down early and often.
We'll see. I mean, it's going to be an interesting fight. I think if it stays standing, Reyes definitely would have a chance to knock out Jones, even though we haven't seen Jones touched, but he's got that special KO power. But you're right. I can't bet against Jones. I mean, I'll just be honest. Like, it's impossible to, in my opinion. You can't bet against this guy. He's like one of the greatest of all time for a reason. He's been money over the years, and if you've been betting against him, you've been losing a lot of money. So I would lean towards Jones. I just think Reyes, he's a special talent. I think he's pretty damn good. Right now, the odds are Jones minus 470 and Reyes plus 375. The other fight, obviously, we want to talk about here, UFC 249, Nurmagomedov Ferguson. Great fight. Crossing my fingers this happens. Can we just put these guys in like a bubble suit, Cole, until the fight happens? I really hope no one gets hurt.
Yeah, this fight better happen because this fight is so interesting. Like, it's such a tough fight to call. It's each fighter's toughest fight they've had in their career, no doubt. And it's like, I think it's one of the biggest fights the UFC is going to put on in 2020.
Yeah, it's going to be a great fight. I cannot wait for this matchup. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch for sure. Khabib did an interview today in Dagestan yesterday, and he said that he's training harder for Ferguson than any of the other fights. He actually said he thinks Tony Ferguson's a far more difficult challenge than Conor, Iaquinta, Poirier, and Barboza. And honestly, it's hard to disagree. I think that he's just super dangerous, man. Ferguson's good everywhere, and I think he has a good chance to win. The odds are right now are minus 230. We have Ferguson plus 190. Just get a few other thoughts on some fights here, Cole. This weekend we have the main event of Kambachi Hidalgo. I gotta ask you about it, man. Okay, we'll talk about the fight in a second, but Campbell McLaren, who's one of the co-founders of the UFC and honestly one of the most important people in the sport, and definitely go read about him if you want to learn some more history about MMA. But he's pretty active on Twitter. He follows me. He's cool. Like he's trying to get some headlines, and he came up with this absolutely ridiculous list yesterday. The top 10 fighters over the age of 40, and he had Tito Ortiz ranked first, and then he had DC ranked second, and then Alberto Del Rio ranked 3, and then I think he had Damian Maia ranked 4, or Yoel Romero or someone. Did you see the list? What were your thoughts on it? Just promoter talk, right?
Alberto Del Rio's not even in like the top 100. That guy hasn't fought in like 10 years, and he was like a 9-6 fighter, and he got knocked out about every other fight. Yeah. Like, how do you have? And Tito Ortiz is probably not even in the. I don't even think Tito Ortiz is probably in the top 5. I'd have Daniel, Yoel, Damian Maia. Like, I wouldn't have him in the top 3 at all.
Yeah, no, it'd be the top 3. I guess would be
Cormier, Yoel,
yeah. And then you'd have, I guess, Anderson would be somewhere there.
I'd pick Anderson over Tito too.
Yeah, I know Tito's on a win streak right now. Anderson's not, but it's hard not to, right? As far as the fight, but you know what? Hey, the guy won, right? Because he's going to get to talk about it, and it's funny. We're all laughing about it. Like, I don't think anyone's taking the list too seriously. I hope he wasn't serious with the list because it's so ridiculous. But what do you think about the matchup, Cole? I mean, the odds right now we have Tito Ortiz minus 1,100, Del Rio plus 700. Like, Del Rio's not a joke. Like, he has fought, I think, 14 fights. I believe he's 9-5. He fought in Pride. He has some experience, obviously, in some other promotions, but he's been in pro wrestling forever. There's a big difference between pro wrestling and MMA. Do you think he has a chance at plus 700?
No, I think Tito's going to knock him out in like the first or second round. I don't think it's going to be close at all.
Isn't it weird though how Tito I don't know if he got released by Bellator or if this contract was up, but isn't it kind of strange how he left Bellator and he was on a win streak and then Golden Boy, obviously.
Well, I
he goes to
thought
come
I thought Bellator is perfect because you could set up that Bader rematch. You could fight for the title. Like he has the win over Bader.
As ridiculous as it is, Cole, I actually would watch that fight because remember what happened back in that first fight. I think it was UFC 132 back in, I believe, 2011 or 2011, I think it was. My brain, I think, is working right now. That was one of the biggest upsets probably ever. I know the odds maybe don't say that, but I was shocked when he finished Ryan Bader. Knocked him down with that shovel hook and then submitted him. It was crazy. So I actually wouldn't mind that rematch. I've got a question from Marcus. What are your thoughts on Ferguson floating around at plus 200 against Habib? Love the price tag on Ferguson, who I think is more past victory than Habib. I'm with you, Marcus. I love Habib, and again, he's like John Jones. How do you bet against him, right? But I think Ferguson has a good chance. The odds are reflective of that. People are giving him respect because a lot of other opponents for Habib would be like plus 400 here. He's only plus 200. I do think he has a good chance to win this fight. Let's see here. So I've talked about the odds for this weekend. We have a pretty good month of fights coming up, Cole. Actually, we have like four. I think there's like 4 Bellator cards. There's the Rising card at the end of the year. We have 3 UFC cards, so it's going to be a good month, Cole. Obviously, last month was it wasn't the greatest month for us MMA writers. I'll just say that. Like there wasn't much to write about, but it is what it is. I'll talk about a few newly announced matchups here. Just get your thoughts on some of them. Some interesting ones. If there's anything, Cole, if you want to think of any topics,
Well, Joanna Weili Zhang.
Yeah, I forgot to talk about that one. So there's 2 fights announced yesterday. I was going to mention that. Thanks for bringing it up. Joanna Weili Zhang, that's going to be on UFC 248. Marcus actually asked me earlier, like, do I think it's going to be main event or co-main? I think co-main, and I think the main event's going to be Adesanya Romero if I had to guess for that card, Cole. Zhang, Joanna, who do you favor there? I kind of favor Zhang, but what do you think?
I favor Joanna. I think she's the better striker. I think she's the more. I'm just not sold on Zhang yet. I haven't seen enough of her. I think the Andrade one, it was obviously a good fight, caught Andrade. I wasn't that high on Andrade anyways. So I think Joanna's her first like real tough striking test, like tactical striker, can go 5 rounds, can push the pace. So it's gonna be interesting to see what Zhang looks like in a 5-round fight because I think Joanna's gonna make it a 5-round fight.
It's an interesting fight. I mean, she hasn't looked great lately. Zhang's looked great, but Joanna's fought really good competition. So an interesting fight for sure. I am looking forward to it though. And the other fight that was announced yesterday, Corey Anderson against Jan Blachowicz, the rematch. Any thoughts on that one?
I think it's obviously a good fight. Winner should get winner of Jones Reyes, barring Jones winning. Because I think if Reyes wins, it's just going to be an immediate rematch. But it's definitely interesting. I think Anderson's going to try to use his wrestling. I think Blachowicz is the better striker. Anderson's a better wrestler. But I think Anderson's wrestling is going to dictate where the fight goes. I think he's going to early lean us towards Anderson.
I kind of lean towards Anderson as well. He's a little bit younger. They have fought before. He won the first fight. I think he has that mental edge there. But Blachowicz matches up well. He's looked a lot better as far as his wrestling goes lately, Cole, which the first fight, if I remember correctly, I think Anderson just grinded him out. So could be an interesting rematch. The fact it's 5 rounds is cool. I'm assuming the winner gets a title shot. It's unfortunate that fight's not on the same card as Jones and Reyes, but there's so many events. They need these fights as main events, Cole. Got another question from Marcus. If Till gets Whitaker and Yoel gets Israel, what do you think UFC do with Jared Cannonier, who I think should fight Israel next? Jared is dangerous, and Israel actually says that he has a ton of respect for Jared and considers him arguably the most dangerous guy. But I feel like he just kind of needs one more win. And I think Yoel, even though he's on a losing streak, I just feel like most casual fans would rather see that fight because they know who he is a little bit. And I think even hardcore fans know the danger that Yoel presents, even with the losing streak. Like, to me, that's a little bit more of a intriguing fight because he has the wrestling and he has the striking. So if you had to pick, who would you give the title shot to? Oh, those 2 guys, because obviously Costa's hurt.
I would give it to Cannonier just because of the winning streak, and I don't like seeing people on a losing streak get a title shot unless it's like a rematch. But
yeah,
I think obviously Romero is the bigger fight. It's a more interesting one. It's the guy. We don't know how much longer Romero has, and Izzo's made it clear he's like, that's the guy I want. I want to prove I can defend the takedowns and beat that scariest guy. If Till does get Whitaker, though, I think Cannonier, I know he's just coming off a loss, but maybe you give Cannonier like Gastelum. Maybe it's Costa Cannonier when Costa's ready to go, depending on how much damage Adesanya or Romero take.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, Costa says he thinks he's going to be ready by April. I think Valid said he will be ready then, but that's probably when he's going to start training again because bicep surgery, especially MMA, you need your biceps, obviously. So I think you'll probably be out a while. And I think Jared Cannonier honestly might be the victim just kind of an unfortunate turn of just fighters being hurt at the wrong time and stuff like that. Let's talk about a few other just quick matchups here, Cole. Get your thoughts on them. Dan Hooker, Paul Felder, that's the main event, UFC Auckland. Love this fight, man. What do you think?
Yeah, it's gonna be a great fight. I don't really know who I lean. It's a close fight. I think Felder's was gonna be better in the later rounds. I think Hooker has a shot to knock him out. It's what a great fight though for New Zealand. That's a great main event.
It is. I'm really looking forward to that one. A couple other ones here. Let's see. What about Josh Emmett, Arnold Allen?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I think Emmett obviously has the knockout power. I think Arnold is the more technical striker. So I think in the second and third round, I think that's going to favor Allen. The first round, I think Emmett just needs one punch. He can put anyone away. So it's having an interesting fight. That rally card is really good.
Yeah, it is. What about? I'm surprised by this one because Rafael dos Anjos is ranked, I think, 5, and he's a good fighter, but he's not ranked. There was guys like Jeff Neal that were begging to get ranked fighters, Cole, and then Chiesa gets a number 5 guy. It's a good matchup, but isn't that kind of almost unfair to the guys that were just like trying their best to get these ranked guys, and then he gets a ranked opponent?
I think part of it is Chiesa was ranked at lightweight. I think he was ranked like 10 or 9, and has good wins at welterweight. Finished Carlos Condon, dominated Diego Sanchez. It's definitely an interesting fight because I don't know if Chiesa will be able to use his wrestling and his grappling, which is his biggest tool against RDA. So it's going to be interesting. Obviously, RDA's looking at back in the win column after the Leon Edwards loss, but RDA's always at the top, so win will get him another top 5 guy.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. This fight was a head scratcher. We talked about it a little bit last week on just DMs. Derek Lewis against Ilir Latifi. Weird, right?
It's so stupid. Why does a guy ranked like 5 or 4 at heavyweight on a winning streak fight the number like 12 or 11 guy at light heavyweight who's coming off a loss? Corey Anderson hasn't fought in over a year. Like, it makes no sense. Latifi's not even a big name, so it's not even like it's like a light heavyweight moving up that's a big name. Like, I don't get it. There's so many fights for Lewis to have at heavyweight. You could have done the Ngannou rematch. There's like a bunch of fights. You could have given him like JDS. You could have given him someone like that, but they do Latifi. To me, it makes no sense at all.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Just maybe last one here. Vinicius Moreira against Tyson Pedro, and you messaged me as soon as you saw this one. You're just like,
why is this guy still in the UFC? He's 0-3 with 3 stoppages, and he looked awful in all 3 fights. Like,
he's the guy they bring in to lose, man. He's being brought in. They're flying him down to New Zealand. They're going to give him his 8,000 to show or whatever, 10,000 to show, and he's going to be kicked out of the UFC. It's a terrible matchup for him. Actually, one quick one. I forgot this one. Love this fight, Cole. Sadiq Youssef against Andre Fili, man. Sick fight.
Yeah, that's a great fight. I'm really high on Sadiq Youssef. I think it'd be a real title. I think he'd be a title challenger featherweight. Fili's a tough guy. I'd always had some losses, but his striking, he's always dangerous. Good camp at Team Alpha Male. It's definitely a good fight, and it's going to be, I think that could easily be fight of the night.
One other question from Marcus. Have you heard if the UFC is a backup fighter of Aldo can't make 135? The UFC doesn't. What do you think happens with Aldo versus Marlon? I just don't see Aldo making 135. Well, first off, I do think he's going to make the weight. We've seen some pictures floating around. He looks really good. He looks lean. Aldo is a guy. I know he had struggled earlier, especially early in his career. UFC 129 when he fought in Toronto, there was that video of him in the bathtub, like shaking, trying to cut the weight. So he has struggled at times, but I feel like he's extremely motivated because he knows that one win, Cole, over Moraes, he gets a title shot against Henry Cejudo, in my opinion. Do they have a backup? I think Pedro Munoz told James that he's going to be the backup for this card, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm pretty sure Pedro.
The thing is, he's teammates with Munoz, or he's teammates with Moraes, so it makes no sense. He wouldn't fight Moraes.
He's an American top team guy as well, which definitely throws a wrench in things. But Cole, you know what? If it's one of the situations where they have Munoz in and they say you got to fight Moraes, I think they probably would fight each other. You know, it's for money. They need to fight at some point. I know it's not for a title, but it could be for a title shot. The other thing about this card that's really interesting, I'm going to be at this card next week. I cannot wait. First time in Vegas, guys. I can't wait. It's going to be sick. The Peter Yan Faber fight, that's on the same card. They're both like back-to-back against each other. So I feel like Aldo probably has the inside track to get the title shot, Cole, against Cejudo if he wins. Like, Aldo and Cejudo have been really going back and forth. Cejudo is calling himself the King of Rio now and stuff. Like, he's so cringe, but I love it. But just say Yan or even Faber. Just say Faber goes and knocks out Peter Yan, or Yan knocks out Faber with like some spinning shit or something like that. maybe they could jump in. So I think that the UFC actually set them up nice here with the 2 fights, but it is kind of weird that if Aldo misses weight, you'd have Munoz fighting his teammate Moraes. I don't know if that would happen, but again, Cole, money talks. The UFC might pay them extra. I'm not too sure, but definitely a good point you brought up. Go ahead.
I just think they'd scratch the fight. This card's stacked enough. You can move up Neil Perry. You can move up Saunders Brown. I think
Why did they have a backup then? Why did they fly him in?
I don't think he is. Munoz said he's doing the backup himself. The UFC hasn't even told him. Oh,
really?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought he was. Oh, okay.
So that's why, I don't think it would happen. I think they just scratch the fight.
I thought they were okay. I thought the UFC had flown him in. I guess I was mistaken on that one, but it is what it is. Okay, that makes sense. I think they should always have backup opponents, but it's not a main event too at the same time, so I can see why they wouldn't. Cole, is there anything you want to talk about, man? Anything that's not matchup related, just news? There's obviously been a lot of news. I haven't had you on in 2 weeks. Anything you want to talk about, bud?
What was it? There's one. Okay. With the what do you think, Gaethje? He's coming out and saying he's waiting for the title shot. Do you think he gets the next title shot? Or do you think if you're Gaethje and you had the option, Tony Khabib winner or Conor, what do you take?
Gaethje's in a weird spot right now because he probably deserves a title shot, but obviously he has to wait, and he's gonna have to wait a while. Don't get me wrong, I love this Khabib and Tony fight. Why is it happening in April?
Yeah,
why so long away? They couldn't have booked in February or March.
I know.
Why didn't they just book a double title fight in February with Jones and Reyes and then Khabib and Ferguson? You would have smashed probably records at pay-per-view. I know they want Khabib obviously main eventing, but still, it's kind of weird. Cool. Even March, I know again, as Sonya probably wants to fight, but Khabib needs to fight more often, in my opinion, and just risk it. But as far as Gaethje goes, he deserves a title shot, Cole, right now, probably, to 3 straight wins. But I think he's just going to have to – I think he's going to wait around to see. I know you said that about Corey Anderson, and he obviously took a fight, but I think in Gaethje's position, I think he'd be the perfect backup fighter for that. That card, we don't know for sure that fight's going to happen. Well, let's be honest here, man. It's been scratched 4 times.
If Gaethje takes a fight, do you know what would be a good one? Is do Poirier-Gaethje too. That first fight was sweet.
I like the matchup. I think Gaethje doesn't want it because Poirier's coming off a loss, and he said that he doesn't want the fight. But at the same time, Cole, it'd be a great way to avenge a loss, and it'd be a fun fight for the fans. The first fight was sick, like you said, great fight, and I'd be interested in watching it. But I like Poirier. I think he's pretty cool. I like the fact he's doing these Q&As with fans on Twitter. It's really cool of him, but he needs to get a win, man. And I think Gaethje right now has just put himself in such a good spot that he can't risk fighting a guy coming off a loss. So that's the kind of way I look at it. I wouldn't mind that fight. I think the first fight was great, one of the best fights of 2018, but I can see why Gaethje wouldn't want that fight. Anything else you want to talk about, man, before we get out of here?
Just last thing, the Holm Pennington fight.
Holm Pennington. Oh yeah, they rebooked this fight. Obviously, it was supposed to happen in Australia at UFC
243.
And it's happened before. We saw it at UFC 184 back in 2015. It was a terrible fight the first time around. I don't know, man. I guess I lean towards Pennington a little bit, but
yeah, I don't know why it's booked again.
I'm just not interested.
I think after it fell out with the rematch, I think you should have booked them separate ways.
Yeah,
Winkleton told me Holm really wants Aspen Ladd because all the stuff Aspen Ladd talked about her after that fight got pulled out because she took the title shot instead. So I think that would have been a better fight, but I don't know. I'm just not interested in that rematch at all.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. And I guess before we get out here, we should mention the Walt Harris, Nia Blanchard story because that's obviously been a big story. So she was obviously found dead. We haven't talked about this since. Now the DA's come out. The medical examiner said that she was shot to death, and the DA said they're seeking the death penalty on this guy. We're not lawyers, so we can't speculate here, Cole, about if this guy's going to go be put in the chair or whatever. But just any thoughts on this and how it's affected them in the community?
Yeah, it's just terrible. I don't know. You just take an innocent life for nothing.
Yeah.
I don't. And the dumbest thing part of it is that guy was arrested and someone let him out because on bond. So if he was never allowed to go out on bond, this would have never happened. And I know the DA came out and said it was only him, but they arrested 3 suspects, which is kind of weird. So I don't know what the other 2, maybe they were just helped him. They weren't part of the murder, but maybe they were helping him hide away or something. But it obviously sucks. Walt Harris posted a eulogy on his Instagram that was really heartfelt, but it's impacted the MMA community a lot. It's it's really nice to see like Dana White, John Jones, Ali Abdelaziz like step up for Walt, and all these fighters like show messages of support to Walt, because it's obviously a tragic time for his family.
Yeah, it was cool of those guys to obviously offer reward money. I don't know if anyone actually ever got that money, because I think the police found her. I don't know if there was a tip involved in it, whatever, but they did find the body. It's really sad stuff. So we had to mention that because it's been a huge story in the world of MMA and MMA community, and it really affected this card. Obviously, just terrible spot for Walt Harris, man. Like, he loses his daughter, and he loses the biggest fight of his career. Obviously, it's not even close to losing a family member. That's way more important, but he's been working hard towards getting a title shot on himself, Cole. And it's just like everything's been crashing down for him. So really tough spot for Walt Harris, but hopefully that this bad string of bad news has been in the past. Hopefully he has a big 2020. But yeah, it's tough to move on after this kind of stuff. I think that's it for today, Cole. I can't talk anymore, man. Go ahead, plug your stuff, bro.
Twitter at ColeShelton91. This week I talked to Rozenstruik, Kunitskaya on BJ Penn. Just posted one on Winklejaw and Michelle Watterson. I have Cody Saban, Rick Simone, MMA News. Everything else is on my Twitter.
Awesome. Check me on Twitter at MMAdamMartin, right there at the bottom of the screen. I'm available at MMAOddsBreaker.com, BJPenn.com, MMARings.net. This podcast, MMA OB Daily Podcast with Adam Martin, available at YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud, Anchor, Google Podcasts, and iTunes. So it's available everywhere. Cole, once again, thanks for tuning in or for joining me for the show. Thanks everyone for tuning in to today's podcast. Did 2 shows today. My voice is completely done now. I got to take a break, get some glass of water, relax for a bit. But I will be back tomorrow for the Wednesday edition of the show. And once again, Cole, thanks for joining me today, man. UFC Washington DC this Saturday afternoon in Washington should be a great card. We'll see what happens there. Guys, I'll talk to you later. Have a good day. Bye.